Jesse Allen here with the American Ag Network. Joining us today with the NDSU Extension, we have Lisa Pederson and Dr. Gerald Stokka with us. And Lisa and Dr. Stokka, appreciate the time here today. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us be on with you, Jesse.
Well, let's dive right in. Obviously, we have a major winter storm impacting much of the region here this week, and a lot of worry just about the impacts of that with heavy snows out there. And I think just to start before we dive more into the cattle side of this, Lisa, I know just in general, farm safety has got to be top of mind as we're out there taking care of our livestock, looking at things, taking care of things around the farm. We want to make sure we stay safe.
Absolutely. Jesse, I recall back to, I think it was in Blizzard Atlas, that at least one producer lost their lives to carbon monoxide poisoning using a generator in an unventilated space. And so, think about where you're running some generators. Even some of our common heating equipment can cause quite a bit of carbon monoxide. And, I hope our producers understand that their safety and their life is worth far more than any one of our cattle and or our livestock. And I'm married to a rancher. I consider myself a rancher myself, just like Dr. Stuck is. And I know it's hard to think about that, but take care of yourselves in these times. Don't put yourself in harm's way, and certainly use some of those generators correctly. Be aware of your conditions. I would hate for us to hear about a producer being lost in a blizzard, and those things do happen. So
Very true. A very good point there. Well, Dr. Stucca, as we think about taking care of our cattle during a major storm like this, we were chatting before we went live here that, obviously ranchers making a lot of preparations ahead of this storm and trying their best to put those plans into place. What are some general tips we need to think about to take care of our cattle here during a major winter storm like this?
Yeah, and so the unusual part of this winter storm is this time of year. Normally we think about the middle of April and on as being, it can be rainy, it can be snowy, but we don't think of blizzards or a significant blizzard in April, but they can happen. And this is one of those years where it happened. And so for many herds, because herd size has increased so dramatically over the last number of years, instead of 50 cows, many have 500 and even more. So it's not the operation with a lot where you calve in or a barn that you calve in. Most of the time now we are dealing with outside calving, and that works just fine in good weather. Cows, in their natural instinct, want to be away from the herd and take care of their calf by themselves, and they actually do a tremendous job of it. We're maybe asking a little bit more of them in a storm like this, but they will do it. They'll calve and they'll take care of that calf. They'll find a place out of the wind as best as best as they can. And cows are smart that way. But if you have breaks, if you got canyons, if you got someplace, some brush, some place where a cow can get out of the way, get out of the wind, even though it snows, it's amazing what they'll do to take care of that calf. Now, having said that, there will undoubtedly be some calf loss, and that's to be expected when we get these unexpected storms at this time of the year. But being in the cattle business takes a certain amount of mental toughness because we actually care for these cattle quite a bit. They are economic units, but they're more than that. And so we deal with life and we deal with new birth and sometimes we deal with death and we continue on. But I still say it's a rewarding business to be in. It's not necessarily economically so all the time, but it's rewarding from having the privilege of caring for some of these creatures that God gave us.
Very true. I would think as well. It's even a little more precarious position for ranchers if they have calving going on right now. That I think that would be a big worry as well. If Dr. Stuck, or Lisa, either one of you like to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So, we're having right now, many producers are, I think probably a large percentage of our Northern Plains producers, calve in April, at some point in April. And so, it is challenging. And, I think producers, if we can give those cows a place to calve out of the wind, and Producers, I was coming home from, I taught class in Fargo yesterday, and I was coming back to the ranch last night, and I could see tractors moving in pastures. Undoubtedly, producers were bedding cows and building windbreaks, probably even out of hay bales or straw bales, in those pastures. And so, if you can give a place for a cow to get out of the wind and maybe clear out some snow as you can and give them a little bit of a dry place to lay, calves will usually be pretty resilient in those situations. Put down some straw or some bedding of some type. Um, again, I'll let Dr. Stokka talk about taking care of those calves if they get chilled down. I think that there's some best management practices that we may not think about that, but certainly getting colostrum in those calves is very, very important. And if you can get that calf to suck to utilize that colostrum, that's great. If you can't, if they're chilled down enough that they can't, then tubing that calf. But getting some colostrum in that calf is really important. And I know that there's a lot going on and you're trying to do everything you can. We are at our ranch as well right now, but that colostrum's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Jesse, let me just jump off on Lisa's comment there. I consider colostrum to be a miracle drug. If a calf will consume colostrum, either naturally and stand up and nurse, or you've milked the cow, or you've bought some colostrum replacement, it's a miracle because it provides the energy and the immunity that calf needs. And we've had several occasions where a calf has not nursed, and you begin to introduce colostrum into its mouth. He swallows a few times, and it's almost like there's a light bulb that turns on, and the calf's thinking, I'm not dead. I'm actually alive. It's an amazing process that takes place, and most of the time it works just fine. But you can't overemphasize how valuable that colostrum is out of that mother that calf gets up to nurse. And then he's equipped after that to handle some pretty tough weather. They can handle some cold. They can handle a little wet if they've got that colostrum in their system. So I just wanted to reiterate how important that really is.
Well, a lot of great things to think about. Dr. Stokka, Lisa, any other tips, any other things we need to really keep in mind here the next 24, 48 hours as we get this heavy snow and we get the wind and things blowing around and then we start to get moved out of the storm? Any other things we need to consider?
Lisa, maybe I'll jump in here just a little bit. This also emphasizes the importance of your cows being in good shape. And we use the term body condition score when we talk about that. This means those cows are carrying a little fat on their back. And so they can actually go a few days without eating or finding what they need. And they're amazing. But if they're thin to begin with, then this cold and this wet is much more difficult for those cows and calves to cope. So it's just a reminder of some of these decisions regarding what shape your cows are in started many months ago. It's not just something that you can do a day before or 2 days before, because it's not going to help when you start trying to recondition your cows too late towards calving.
Yes, I think you and I like to use the term building resilience in your cow herd and having your cows in good shape. And I always say plan for the worst and hope for the best, and that's part of building that resilience into your herd. Dr. Stuck, you want to talk about some best management practices for producers that need to maybe reheat some calves?
Yeah.
Or warm them up?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So when a calf reaches a critical temperature internally, they don't function very well. In fact, they'll almost act like they're unconscious, and they need to be warmed up. And so one of the things that helps but doesn't really warm up the inside of that calf is dry heat. So you take a calf inside an environment, you put dry heat on. The problem is that heat is not transferred, or it's slowly transferred to where that calf really needs it. It's not like you can't warm up a calf in a heat box, but if it's really cold, that calf needs more than a heat box. He actually probably needs something to transfer the heat. And what we sometimes use is warm water. We'll find a bathtub or something to contain water and put in warm water in there, and then we'll immerse that calf in that warm water. It may take a couple times, but that's going to transfer heat a lot better and a lot quicker than just a hot box. So many ranchers have hot boxes that they use. But when a calf is too cold, then he needs something a little quicker. And it's good to heat him up before you really before you heat them up a ways before you give them colostrum or give them that colostrum supplement. And then both those two things working together can really change the outcome of a calf that's too cold.
Well, this has been fantastic. A lot of great things to think about here as we work through this major winter storm. Dr. Stokka, Lisa, any other final thoughts for us before we run out of time?
Dr. Stokka, what do you foresee with the being health challenges once it warms up,
Yeah.
getting past this?
Yeah. I guess it's always when the things are the darkest, we tend to think this is the way it's going to be. Well, the sun is going to shine again. It's gonna warm things up. It's going to melt. And when your cows are spread out, the risk of some of the illnesses that Elisa is referring to, like scours, for example, is less. If you're confining your cows into a lot situation with mud and exposure to a lot of other calves, then you can get some of those issues related to calf diarrhea and scours, and sometimes even later with older calves with things like respiratory disease or what we call pneumonia. So it's wise to be on the lookout. It's wise to be alert for some of those things that can occur.
Well, great stuff, and we appreciate the time with that. Dr. Gerald Stokka, Lisa Pederson with the NDSU Extension. Thank you for the time today on the American Ag Network. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jesse.